Hello there, Liz. Maybe we can start with you telling us a little bit more about why we snore.
Yeah, absolutely, Joel. Well, if we put aside the occasional instance of snoring due to injury of the nasal passages or the throat structure, then most commonly snoring simply as a result of our throat muscles becoming lax with age. So they don't support the tongue any longer. They don't hold it nicely forward while we're lying down like it does when we're younger. So as we start to fall asleep and the throat area becomes relaxed, the tongue slides back and it starts to vibrate on the soft tissue, making that all too familiar noise that we all hate. Now, most people are told they snore or they get repeated digs in the ribs, but for some people who live alone, they actually report waking with a very dry throat every day, or else they have to have a drink during the night if they rouse. People who do snore, they rouse repeatedly, and therefore they don't get enough of the REM sleep that we all need for healing and the repair of ourselves during rest. So it's a great idea to treat it, and not just for the snorer's sake, but also for their partner's health and the ability to have a sound sleep too. Generally, a lot of people start snoring in their late 40s and 50s, some a little earlier. It depends on genetics to some extent too. Slightly narrower airways maybe, or a slightly larger tongue. And also, if you carry a little weight, then the fat cells in the neck plump up. And what that does is narrow the airways somewhat so that you then snore at a younger age. Ladies often start snoring too, unfortunately, in menopause, as hormones play a role in muscle tone too. And of course, if you like an alcoholic drink at night or you take the odd sleeping pill or a muscle relaxant, you'll generally snore. So anything that relaxes you for sleep, ironically, also can make you snore, sadly.
Hmm. I'm sure a lot of people relate to that. So I guess the million-dollar question is, how does the mouthguard work exactly?
Sure. I called it a mouthguard, but its correct name, it's a bit of a mouthful, pardon the pun. It's a mandibular advancement splint, and they've actually been around for decades. So until approximately 2004, though, you could only get one via a custom fitting by a dentist or a sleep clinic. But these self-mould devices are great because they suddenly make treating snoring affordable. They're made from a BPA-free thermoplastic, and they come in an unmoulded form like you see on the website. So when you order, you receive comprehensive instructions on moulding them, and most people find it quite easy. The mouthguard has two channels, top and bottom, and you immerse it in recently boiled water and then pop it into your mouth for the moulding process and gently hold your lower jaw forward just fractionally. It's not a huge movement, it's just a small movement. So you can try the principle yourself if you like. First, what people need to do is just make a snoring noise, making sure you're snoring through the throat rather than snorting through the nose. Then, just move the lower jaw forward very slightly and try to make the same noise. It's that simple, really. By advancing the jaw slightly forward, the guard helps to keep the tongue clear of the airways when lying down. So they're not a cure. You'll still snore if you aren't wearing it. But while it's in, you should either not snore at all or vastly improve your snoring.
It's so simple, and I know a lot of people have tried different things and with different results. Why does this work and those other treatments from the chemist, etc., aren't quite so successful?
Sure. Good question, and I get asked it all the time. And in fact, I went through the same process myself years and years ago. And my simple answer is that given mandibular advancement therapy has been around for decades, that's a good reason to go with a mouthguard. Snoring is a mechanical issue, i.e. the lower jaw falling back and open and the tongue sliding back. So it needs a mechanical fix in the same area. So it's just logic, really.
Speaking of logic, a lot of the things that you were talking about when we first started chatting, of course, tie into sleep deprivation, which is particularly bad for your health long term these days. Why is it so important to make sure that we're getting good quality sleep?
Sure. Well, experts still aren't completely clear on all of the benefits, but they do know now that lack of sleep or disrupted sleep can interfere with your metabolism and actually cause cravings for sugar and high GI carbs. So we've all heard these days too from the World Health Org that they recommend we now have no more than 5 teaspoons of sugar a day, which is hard. So getting enough sleep is really important to stabilise the hormones that make you crave more. There's a lot of research out there on the long-term effects of sleep deprivation, so it's worthwhile doing some independent research too and spreading the word to family and friends. Thankfully, even the major weight loss companies these days around the world are in tune with these findings, and they're actually teaching people now on their programs about the importance of quality sleep.
Yeah, it all makes sense, doesn't it? Liz, are the custom-fitted guards better than the self-mold guards?
Well, funnily enough, I get a lot of people coming to me who have been told by their dentist or sleep clinic to actually try one of the self-mould guards first to make sure it works before they invest in a custom-fitted guard, which can cost anywhere between $1,000 and a couple of $1,000 depending where you live. And they don't, of course, come with a guarantee. So they try these and then they ring me very happy indeed as they find it works so well for the price that they don't actually need the custom guard. Now, the exception to this, and I always tell people this if they call me, is the occasional person who has a very pronounced overbite or underbite, a crossbite, lots of teeth missing in a row, or maybe very loose dentures. So there's no doubt that these people generally need a little bit of extra help, and if I don't feel the guard will work for them, I'll often suggest a place for them to actually have a custom-made guard done. Sometimes people will divulge there's no way in the world they can actually afford a custom guard in that scenario. So the next best thing, if we can't get the guard moulded tightly enough, is just for them to use it in conjunction with a simple stretchy little neoprene chin strap on the website. What that does is actually holds the jaw closed so that the mouth guard stays in place well. So it's rare anyone needs it, but if they're determined to use the guard and they really need it, then it does generally give a good outcome using them together.
You mentioned dentures. Obviously, you can use the guards with dentures.
Yeah, look, generally you can. There's a few caveats, and it varies from denture to denture, as I find dentists make them all a little bit differently. Usually it's only effective, though, if you only have one set of dentures. Double dentures generally don't provide enough firm grip for the mouth guard to hold the lower jaw stable. And lower dentures are trickier than top dentures, and they will probably need the chin strap to be worn as well. However, if someone just has top dentures and they're nice and secure and snug, it's normally okay. It's impossible, of course, to tell 100% as it varies person to person and the shape will have a big impact. But the bottom line, I guess, is that if you have one set of dentures, it's definitely worth trying, in the knowledge, though, that you might need the chin strap.
Okay. You've had many, many customers over the years. What's the success rate?
Yeah, well, look, for my company, it's very high, which is great. And I put that down to the fact that I offer personal service 7 days a week during what I call reasonable hours, which is about 7 or 8 a.m. until 7 p.m. I prefer it when customers email me for help, though, because then I can reply carefully. They can print it out, nothing can be misconstrued according to my advice, and it lets me get back to a whole lot more people later on in the evening. So because I provide all of that help, my refund rate runs to about 1 in 60, which is very, very high compliance, I think, and I'm really happy with it. So I do encourage everyone who purchases to contact me immediately they have an issue and not start tinkering with the guard without referring to the really good tips that I send in my shipping details, and then, of course, contacting me if the tips don't prove to fix their issue.
Yeah, it sounds really good. I guess the other question is, what are those common issues that you come across?
Sure. Look, the most common one is simply that people don't mould the guard quite tightly enough if they're a learner driver, and it's very easily fixed, and I include those details in my shipping advice.
All right, sounds excellent. And is there a money-back guarantee?
Yes, there sure is, Joel. I say 90 days, which sounds a little silly really, as you know straight away if there's an issue, but I do 90 days because that allows anyone who's travelling to have some extra time. But to be fair, people need to contact me for some help as well. It is a two-way street, and I do manage to resolve around 99% of any issues that people have. That said, only about 10% of people ever need my help, and the rest mould it easily themselves.
You mentioned earlier women snoring more commonly. Are these just for men, or is there help available for women?
Yes, definitely help for women, and the secret is out these days that about 40% of women snore, and roughly 40% of my customers are ladies as well, so hence the newish pink snore guards I call SnoreFem. A lot of couples both purchase them now, so they get a box of clear ones for him and a box of pink ones for her, so there's no mixing up at bedtime.
Oh, it sounds very good. And are there not different sizes, Liz?
No, they're actually the same, but during the moulding process they shrink or expand to fit all size mouths, so I have everyone from very petite elderly ladies up to big burly men using them.
You mentioned people being out on the road and travelling around, etc. Are they good for travel?
Yeah, actually a lot of people who have their first exposure to the guards because they have a work trip or a cruise or some camping coming up and they don't want to be embarrassed. So I provide overnight trackable delivery between capital cities or an extra day or so, of course, for regional. But I often send them to people who are already on holidays, so to caravan parks, hotels, etc. Some customers even tell me they use them on airlines, which is a great idea as they're discreet enough to do that. Treating snoring is important because it's not just a nuisance, it can have other health implications, and it's worthwhile customers doing a little research on that aspect too. There's obviously also the ramifications on relationships caused by snoring, as well as fatigue-related accidents.
Yeah, I can only see positives, so I think it's something that we should all investigate if we do have an issue, because you've got nothing to lose, do you? Thankfully, not hard to get your hands on one of your products. What's the best way to order?
Yeah, sure. There's a few ways. They can either call the 1800 991 259 number or text their name to me on 0406 042 699, or they're also welcome to email me. The links are on the website, and the website is www.instantly-stop-snoring.com.
Fantastic, Liz. All the best. Thanks for your time.
Great. Thanks, Joel. Lovely being here.